All right, thank you everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the information webinar for the Native Arts Fellowship, which is one of two fellowship programs, or one of two new fellowship programs that have launched at the National Museum of the American Indian. We're really excited that you're joining us today. My name is Kendall Trehane. I am our fellowships program administrator. I will be taking you through the webinar. I'm also joined by my colleague, Sam McGirt, who is our staff assistant in the Outreach and Engagement Planning Office at the museum, and he will be helping with any tech support and helping with the Q&A process later on. So before we go too far, I just wanted to have a few housekeeping tips. So first of all, this is a Zoom webinar. All attendees are automatically muted throughout the webinar. If you do have a question though, please feel free to use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The screen should look like the image on the PowerPoint presentation, but go ahead, use that Q&A button to enter any questions you may have. A quick note is that questions will not become immediately visible to all attendees, but please be assured your hosts and presenters are able to view them. We will have some dedicated time at the end of the webinar to go through all of the Q&A, but we will also try to periodically stop and see if any questions are coming in. Alternatively, if you do have any issues using the Q&A feature, you can also use the raise hand button, and that will signal to us that you have a question, and we can get you unmuted so that you can ask that. So really briefly, this is our agenda for today. So I will be giving you a quick overview and welcome to National Museum of American Indian. After that, we'll go into some more detail about this specific fellowship program. After that, I'll take you on a walkthrough of the online application so that you can see what that looks like and how the different steps that you'll have to go through. And then we'll conclude with dedicated time for questions and answers. So first of all, a little bit of background about the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Institution is the world's largest museum, education, and research complex. It was established in 1846, and it now consists of 21 museums and counting. We are in the process of adding 2 more museums, plus our National Zoo. We also have 9 research centers and a recording label, 21 different branch libraries. We are staffed by approximately 6,700 employees, 13,500 volunteers. And then important for you on the webinar today, we do have approximately 3,000 interns, fellows, and researchers annually. We are a quasi-federal agency, which means that we receive both federal funds and grant monies. And we also have 215 affiliate museums that are spread throughout the US, Panama, and Puerto Rico. And then on our screen is a picture of the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum, just as an example to show that not all of our museums are in the Washington, D.C. area. For example, the Cooper Hewitt Museum is located in New York. More specifically, to tell you more about National Museum of the American Indian, we were established through an act of Congress in 1989. The collections came to us from the High Foundation in New York. George Gustav High was a collector in the 1900s. Through that act of Congress, the collections were formally transferred from the Museum of the American Indian to the Smithsonian, where we became the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. We do actually have 3 different facilities. We still have the George Gustav High Center, which is located in New York and is the building pictured in the bottom right. That facility opened in New York in 1994. We also have our Cultural Resources Center located in Suitland, Maryland, which opened in 1999. This is where the majority of our collections are housed. And then lastly, we also have our Mall Museum, which opened in Washington, D.C. in 2004. So we are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. Really important to our museum is our mission and vision statements, and so I wanted to share those with you. Our mission statement is, in partnership with Native peoples and their allies, the National Museum of the American Indian fosters a richer shared human experience through a more informed understanding of Native peoples. And then our vision statement is equity and social justice for the Native peoples of the Western Hemisphere through education, inspiration, and empowerment. We do have a vast amount of collections here at the museum, and I think it's important to share with you all the different resources that you could have if you were to come here as a fellow. So we do have object collections, which I think is what most people think of when they think of our collections here at the museum. We do have 840,000 items represented by over 270,000 catalog numbers. Those are divided into archaeology, ethnology, and modern and contemporary arts. But also equally important are our photographic archives and our paper archives. In photographic archives, we have about 324,000 images that document nearly all aspects of Native American life from the mid-19th century to present. And then in our paper archives, we also have about 1,522 linear feet of records that date all the way back to the 1860s to modern day. We also hold the materials of the National Congress of American Indians. And then also here at the Cultural Resource Center, we have our Vine Deloria Junior Library, which is one of the 21 branch libraries of the Smithsonian. And here we have research materials of over 40,000 volumes of books, periodicals, microfilm, and media. So that's just a background of the resources we have at the Smithsonian and particularly at the National Museum of American Indian. And now to why you're here on the webinar today is to learn more specifically about the Native Arts Fellowship Program. So this is a program that was designed specifically to increase the number of artists that are engaging with and researching collections at our museum. This is a shorter term fellowship. It is approximately 8 to 10 weeks, with 2 to 4 of those weeks actually being on site, experiencing art collections. Some of the other highlights of this program is the financial support that is provided in the form of various stipends and allowances. There's a base stipend provided of up to $7,800, depending on if you choose to be on site for 2 weeks or up to 4 weeks. It is prorated, but that base stipend is really intended to support living expenses such as lodging, food, transportation, all those needs that you might have when you're on site in DC. We also have a research allowance that is provided through this program, which is $2,500. It is provided for any equipment, supplies, research-related travel, essentially any other research-related supports that you might need to conduct the work through your fellowship. And then also there is a travel allowance, which is a one-time round-trip travel allowance provided for your relocation to the Smithsonian. Also, through this program is a variety of professional development and networking opportunities, which I will go into a little more detail on the next slide. So this fellowship is broken down into a couple different phases. The first is a 6-week virtual phase, and this is really where a lot of that professional development comes in. That 6-week virtual phase is dedicated to building the skills and capacity of the artist fellows to be able to conduct their research and then also to navigate future museum engagements as artists. Part of this fellowship is really thinking more broadly about how we can continue to engage and support more artists engaging with different museum institutions. That 6-week virtual phase will consist of things like training and orientation, virtually to the museum's collections and to other resources that are available at the Smithsonian. It'll also consist of things like pre-on-site networking with museum staff and other fellows who may be in this program or who may be in other Smithsonian fellowship programs, so that you have a better sense of the people that are available to you and have some of those relationships established before you come on site. This period is also dedicated to refining the research project that is in with your or that you have proposed in consultation with museum staff and thinking through your timeline, being able to be better prepared once you come on site. And then you might also want to use this time as well to look at other museums at the Smithsonian or other museum collections in the Washington, D.C. area. We know that it takes a lot for some folks to travel to the Washington, D.C. area. And so we want to make sure that you're making the best use of your time out here on the East Coast. After that will be the period of on-site research, which is 2 to 4 weeks on site. That is really dedicated to doing that research, conducting your research activities at the museum, at any surrounding museums as well. Following that, the fellowship period ends, and then you have the opportunity to have post-fellowship support. So this is really, this post-fellowship support is available for the first 6 months after your fellowship period ends. And that is really dedicated to bringing the information and bringing the experience and knowledge gained at the museum back to the community. So that looks like in the form of a community-based project, which as a fellow, you will, we'll go into more detail about that. But that is something to think about as you're applying to this program, is thinking about how you might bring the information, bring the work that you're doing at the Smithsonian back to the communities that you work with. So again, just to reiterate, the virtual phase for this program is at September to mid-October period later this year. After that, you have anywhere between mid-October to August of 2025 to think about when you want to come to the Smithsonian and spend that time on site. And you'll want to put that in your proposed timeline. I will go over that in later slides. And then again, you'll have that post-fellowship support available to you for 6 months after the fellowship period ends. So as far as program eligibility, this fellowship is really intended to support artists who want to travel to the National Museum of American Indian to visit and learn from our collections. So in thinking of that, individuals best suited for this program should have clear connections or ties to a community with collections that are housed at the museum, who consider themselves early in their artistic careers, or maybe venturing into new art forms, or have experience in their field but are not yet fully established. And also thinking about the professional development that is offered with this program, individuals who really could benefit from that additional mentorship on working with museums, working on museum collections research and engagement. And then lastly, also thinking about that post-fellowship support, individuals should have a desire to share their work and knowledge with Native communities. So some of the major application components, we'll go through these next, and then in a little bit, I'll take you on a walkthrough of the online application so you can see where that information is housed in the online system. But for major application components, one, of course, is contact and travel information. You'll want to make sure you provide your contact information, and then we'll also ask for where you would be relocating from so that we can understand the travel allowance needs that would be needed for your fellowship. Also a proposed project or research title. And then probably most importantly is your actual project or research proposal. So we are asking that that be 1,000 words or less, and it should address a few different key items. The first is a description of the research that you're hoping to undertake while you're at the National Museum of American Indian. You also want to tie into that the importance or benefit that your work has to Indigenous communities. And then you'll also want to provide a justification for conducting your research at the Smithsonian and utilization of resources. This is really just to tie further into what do we have at the Smithsonian, what do we have in our collections that you think is really, really important for why you would like to be here. If applicable, you'll also want to include any current consultations or collaborations that you may be having with Indigenous communities related to your research and work. And then also And this is just to get an idea of other resources that you might be interested in. But if you have any other Smithsonian museums or non-Smithsonian collections that you might be interested in visiting while you're out here. So with your research proposal, you'll also submit a timeline for conducting your on-site research activities. This does not have to be set in stone. This is an idea to help with our planning and planning for collections access times for when you think you would like to come on site for your research. These can be amended and we can talk about those during a 6-week virtual period, but this will help us at least get a general sense of when you would like to visit the Smithsonian. And then also that budget plan for research allowance. Again, that's that $2,500 you have available for additional research related activities. And again, this is something that can be amended, but we would like to get a general idea of how you think that you would spend these funds. For this application, we'll also ask for a few other items, which is a resume or CV. Please make sure to include any work and collaborations you may have with Indigenous communities or relevant stakeholders, an artist bio, and this should be, if you need any additional guidance, this should be a short statement providing an overview of your life and career as an artist. Things that might be important to include would be any relevant information about the mediums that you use or the inspiration or purpose that you have for creating your art. We'll also ask for a couple examples of your artistic work, so up to 5 works that demonstrate your work in your particular field, and then 2 references. And I just want to note that for the purposes of this fellowship program, we're only asking for contact information. You don't need a letter of support, but this one is just contact information for 2 references who can speak to your artistic ability and then also the importance of the work that you're proposing to do. A few other additional components of the application. There is an option to upload academic transcripts. Please note that these transcripts are only required for applicants who may require visa sponsorship. And this is because the Smithsonian Institution sponsors its fellows through the J-1 visa program for researchers. And this is a requirement of that program. In that sense, unofficial transcripts are entirely encouraged. We know that those are often easier to obtain. And then because we do work with a lot of individuals in Canada, just wanted to note that First Nations individuals who are eligible under the J Treaty, they usually do not require visa sponsorship. And then as far as a few other items, there are a couple questions at the end of the application, just to get a better sense of your research. So you'll see a question on scheduling concerns or obligations that you may have during the fellowship period, and then also some research-specific questions that are asked in many of the Smithsonian fellowship applications. As far as selection criteria, and this is really important for thinking of the reviewers that are going to be reading through your applications. One of the things that we're going to be looking at is applicant eligibility. Do you meet the eligibility requirements for the program? Also is the use of NMAI resources. And again, that's thinking about how your research, how the work that you're doing is connecting to the collections that we have at National Museum of American Indian. And then lastly, also looking at the impact or benefit to Native communities. One of the important aspects of this program is that we're looking for individuals who are supporting or elevating artistic practices or knowledge for the benefit of Native peoples. So some general tips for your application submission. And again, these are just general tips, but a few that we think will help you in your submission process is, first of all, just making sure you take the time to prepare your application. We have a lot of online resources available, and Sam will be dropping those links in the chat later on, and we'll kind of show you where you can find those online too. But one is, just take the steps to look at the online collections that Smithsonian has, the National Museum of American Indian has, to see if the materials that you would like to work with are housed within our collections. Also, we think it's important, if you have the time, to please look at the NMAI research staff that we have listed online. That just helps give you a better sense of the knowledge of expertise that we have at the Smithsonian. And think of people that you might be interested in connecting with while you're here. Make sure to also just address each proposal prompt. I know we listed out kind of the five areas that you should include in your proposal. And really, I think it's just important to remember that the application is read by teams of reviewers. And in that sense, some may be more familiar with your work or your particular area of interest, others may not. So the more that you can connect those dots for us, the better. Also plan to submit early. This is just in the event, you may encounter unexpected delays in the submission process. Things might happen with technology. So just make a plan to submit early in case any of those unexpected happenings occur. You might also want to just let your references know that you're listing them on the application so that they're aware they may receive a call in the future as we're going through the review process. And then, of course, last but not least, please reach out for any questions that you may have throughout the process. I am here to answer your questions and hopefully guide you through the submission process. So if you run into anything unexpected and need assistance, just please reach out. As far as accessing the online application, all of our applications are done through our Smithsonian Online Academic Appointment System, or SOLA for short. And the links are on the screen provided if you'd like to have the direct link. The other area that we've posted it for you is on our NMAI Fellowships webpage. So if you go to the NMAI Fellowships webpage, you scroll down to the opportunity that you're interested in, which in this case is the Native Arts Fellowship. And then you can expand the option for application and selection process. And then right at the top there is the link for the Smithsonian Online Academic Appointment System. So once you go to SOLA, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is create your account or login. And so I'll show you once we get to the walkthrough portion, I'll show you where you can find that information. And then after that, there's a big button at the top of the page that says start your application. So you'll want to click on that and it will take you to a search page where you can search for various fellowship applications throughout the Smithsonian. So at that point, you will do a search for the program that you wish to apply to. This particular one is called the Native Arts Fellowship. So you can type that directly into the search. I'll also show you how you can use a couple other different filters to try to find the applications that you're interested in. But on your screen, you should end up with, it should look like on the screen where it'll say program name, Native Arts Fellowship, and then you have the options to click on more details or to apply now. So some other tips for submission is, of course, in the online system, make sure to fill out anything that has an asterisk, as that is information that is required by our Central Office of Fellowship Programs. And then another thing to do is if you click on that details button or special instructions section of the application, it'll expand and give you more information about all of the materials that will be needed to consider your application complete. So at any time, you can refer back to that, make sure you're including everything that needs to be included. Most of the required information is actually information that you're going to upload in the materials section of the application. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can take you to the online application and show you how that process works. While I'm doing that, Sam, do we have any questions in the chat that should be addressed at this time?
We do have one question. It might be best, there's a couple pieces to it, so I think it would be better to address it later to have a thorough answer.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so then let me get my screen pulled back up. Hopefully you all can see this now. So this is the homepage for the National Museum of American Indian. I just wanted to give you a walkthrough of how you can find certain information here. So if you go to the About section of our homepage, on the left-hand side, you can see different areas. The one that you will click on is fellowships, and this will take you to our landing page for all of our fellowship programs. From here, you can access all the information for the fellowship, including the additional resources. So again, this is where you can find information about or the links to do our NMAI collection search, look at our research and curatorial staff, look at virtual archives, look at general Smithsonian collections. But I will take you instead to the application and selection process. And this is where you will find the link to our Smithsonian online academic appointment system. So you can go ahead and click that. I'm trying to move that off my screen. All right. So this is the landing page for SOLA. So from here, if you don't have an account with us yet, you'll just want to hit that create an account button. If you already have an account, you can go ahead and log in. And this is really so that we can, this is really helpful so that you can work on your application, save it, come back to it as needed. This is how we will also track your application through the review and selection process. So again, here's that button at the top that says start your application. So you'll go ahead and click that. From here, you can type in Native Arts Fellowship into the program name. The other way that you can find information is filtering through these different categories. So if you're interested in internships, you can look at internship opportunities, look at fellowship opportunities. For the purposes of this, I'll show you how you can look for opportunities specific to NMAI. So Smithsonian uses a lot of acronyms. So in here, when you're searching for National Museum of the American Indian, you will want to use our acronym, which is NMAI. So we'll scroll down. Here we are. We'll go ahead and select that. We're also interested in programs that are currently open and accepting applications. So we'll keep that as currently active. And I'll go ahead and click the search button. So from here, you can see we have several active programs that are accepting applications. We are specifically interested in the Native Arts Fellowship. So again, this is where you can click details. This will give you more information about the different opportunities that you're looking at. So for the Native Arts Fellowship, here's all the information that we have laid out that you will need to provide. If you want to click show more, this also tells you more about the other materials that you will need to submit, like your CV or resume, transcripts, that budget request for the research allowance, your project proposal, etc. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to click the Apply Now button and log in so that you can see what the application looks like. All right, so hopefully you can now see the application. So we've gone directly, it'll open directly into personal information. This is where you can share about things like how you found out about the program, enter your contact information here. Again, anything with an asterisk is required. For year of program competition, just make sure you select 2024 as that is the current year that we are accepting applications for. At the top of the screen, you'll see these different chevrons. So as you're filling out information, you can always click save. You can click next to go to the next tab, but you can also come up directly to these chevrons and click on any of these choices, and it'll take you to that specific section. So I clicked on current affiliation. So it asks for a few different information here. The one that you're really going to be, the tabs that you're really going to be working on are going to be program choices, materials, references, and questions. So if I go to program choices, this is where it's going to ask for information on where you would be relocating from for your fellowship. So we'll ask for your nearest major city. This is where you might be flying out of or driving out of or taking a train if train is an option for you. But the major city that you would be departing from to head to this our Smithsonian facility, NMAI. This is where you would also put in your proposed project or research title, and then of course, any applicable tribal affiliations that you may have. The materials tab is where you're going to be uploading most of the materials for your application. So hopefully this all looks familiar from the PowerPoint presentation, but again, you know, your request for your research allowance, a copy of your CV or resume. This other tab is where we've instructed you to upload your artist bio, your portfolio with up to five different works, your research proposal, timeline for conducting on-site activities, and then transcripts. So when you come down, you'll see it's a simple upload applications section. What you'll do is you'll want to select the option that you're ready to upload. So if I have my budget ready, I'll go ahead and click budget request. Then I can select the files that I'd like to choose from. And that should open a dialog window on your computer. You can click the file that you wish to upload and then just make sure you hit that upload button. And then you'll know that it's uploaded successfully because you'll see this message here. And then you'll also see that it appears now in this uploaded application materials section. From here, you can, double check, okay, I uploaded a budget request. This is my budget. If you realize that you've uploaded the wrong item, you can delete it and re-upload a new one. And then just make sure you're clicking the correct title of what it is that you wish to upload as you're going through and uploading different items. In your references section, again, there are no formal letters of support required for submission of the application. Here, you're just going to be providing contact information. So the best way to fill this out is just click this Add New Reference Details button. From here, you can put in your references information. The main things that we'll want is their email address and phone number if we need to reach out to them. So from here, you'll just put in your information. I'll just fill in mine as a placeholder. And it is as simple as that. And then if you can also fill in the phone number as well, but you'll go ahead and hit save, and then that will attach to your application. I'll go ahead and save that just to show. So here it is. I have my reference listed here. If you need to edit this, you can hit the edit button, edit any of this information, or you can delete this reference if you need to change it too. And then finally, the questions tab. This is that additional information I had mentioned in the PowerPoint, but this is where you can add any scheduling concerns or obligations you might have during the proposed fellowship period. This isn't applicable this first year because this is the first year of the program, but eventually we'll ask how many times you've applied in previous years. And then here are the standard questions that we usually see in many of our Smithsonian fellowship applications. So that is a brief walkthrough of the online system. I will transition us back over to the PowerPoint. I'll just take a moment to get that set up. All right. So just a reminder, some important dates. The application deadline is April 4th of this year. Again, the first 6 weeks are that virtual phase that we ask all fellows to participate in simultaneously. That will happen from September to mid-October. After that, it is up to your discretion and consultation with NMAI staff for when you choose to come on site to do your research. But again, you have the options to come anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks between mid-October to August of 2025. And again, if you need to find those additional resources, I've showed you where you can find them on our website. You can go to our fellowship's website, scroll to your opportunity, select additional resources, and they will appear. Some other tips for searching Smithsonian online collections, the general Smithsonian online collections link, if you need to filter down further to specific museums like NMAI, you can do that through catalog record source. Archives and libraries can also be filtered in that way. The options that you'll see on those collection searches instead will be by archival repository and library location. Lastly, if you're interested in other Smithsonian fellowship opportunities or seeing who else is at the Smithsonian, you can look at our Smithsonian Opportunities for Research and Study Guide, or SORS for short, and it lists the research staff that are at all Smithsonian museums. And of course, if you are looking for something and you don't find it, please reach out. We are still in the process of getting more and more information available on our online collections searches. So if you don't find any, if you're looking for something specific and you don't find it, please feel free to reach out and we can do an internal database search for you. So here's my contact information and a picture so you know what I look like. But again, you can reach me at nmaifellowships@si.edu or by phone at the phone number listed on the screen.